Saparyaga shukrama kayama vranamasna viraggo shuddhamapa apavidham kavirmanishi paribhu swayambhu ya arthartatyatorthan vyadadhat shashvati bhyasamaabhyah. Saha, the very first word saha means he. Now he is bringing back the individual after he's attained that state of realization. So almost trying to give us a sense of assurance that the individual still exists even after realization. So what is his experience, as it were? He is all pervading, resplendent, without body. Don't worry. Doesn't mean the body will disintegrate into ashes or it becomes the formless. No. I'll explain that. Without body, scatheless, avranam, without sinews, asnaviram, shuddham, pure, untainted by sin, apapa vidham. Apapa vidham means untainted by sin. He is the seer, kavihi, omniscient, munihi. Manishihi. Manishihi means omniscient, transcendent, and self-existent. He has allotted the respective duties for eternal years. Now, this is the mantra which can be taken as an authority which establishes the concept of, you all remember the concept? The concept of Jivan Mukti. The concept of Jivan Mukti means a person can attain realization before physical death. Contrary to the concept is Videha Mukti, which they claim. They have their list of arguments. When you study in detail and do a comparative study, you find Jivan Mukti is far more logical than the concept of Videha Mukti. Now, this mantra establishes that a self-realized person can live in the individual form even after realization, which is Jivan Mukti. So this mantra just assures that. And as we remember, Isavasyopanishad is a mantropanishad. Mantropanishad, contrary to Brahmanopanishad, Mantropanishad are authoritative Upanishads. So for an authoritative text to state this is the highest authority you can accept on mere faith, there is no greater authority than the masters of a Mantropanishad saying it. Just to give you an assurance, you may not take it because I say so or anybody says so, but because the Upanishad says so, you have to take it. Okay. Now, firstly, he says he is all pervading. Saparyaga, paryagat. Paryagat means all pervading. The Sanskrit word for all pervading is paryagat. Pari means all sides. Agat means went. Paryagat means you have gone in all directions, which means all pervading. All pervading means what? The individual is not all pervading. The individual is limited. Like I'm limited to this space and form. But when you say all pervading, it has to only describe of the Brahman. So when he says he is all pervading, which means he has attained the state of all pervasive. And what is all pervasive? What is it that is all pervasive? Okay, tell me that is all pervasive which you know, and then tell me which is all pervasive that you do not know. Shantima, tell me all pervasive that you know.
Hari Om Guruji. Space.
Perfect. That which you know, which is all pervading, is space. Now that which you do not know, which is all pervading, is
Brahman. Yeah.
The difficult answer you answered. The easy answer is very easy. Very good. Now, what is the difference between space and Brahman then? If you say space also is all pervading, Brahman also is all pervading, then can we not go about saying, oh, therefore space equals Brahman? Oh, makes it very easy, sir. Why do I scratch my head with Brahman? What is the difference between space and Brahman then?
I don't know.
I'll give you credit for saying, I'll give you a lot of credit for saying I don't know. Many people don't say that so easily. Many people think they know and they keep attempting many attempts. No, so sweet of you. Yes, that's good. So space is that which we know is all pervading. Brahman is that which we do not know is all pervading. Now the question is, Haresh, what is the question? Very seriously, you're writing down. Hopefully you've written down the right question.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om, Haresh.
Your question is, what is the difference between the two, between space and Brahman?
Is that the question?
Yes, Guruji. Between all pervasive and between, the thing was all pervasive that we know, which is space, and all pervasive that we do not know, which is Brahman. And your question was, what is the difference between the two?
Okay. I give you credit for the question. Now what's the answer?
Truth be told, I also do not know like that. I'm sorry.
All right. So you also being in the category of Shantima. That's a very exclusive category, Harish. Because the problem is to undo the knowing is difficult. If you do not know, it's easy. So learning becomes easy. Now let's ask the legends of this classroom. The moment I say legend, she's hiding her face, you know. How does she know she's a legend? I don't understand that. That means she herself consider herself a legend. Huh? And now Ushama, US.
You have given me the title, Guruji, so I know.
Oh, have I given you the title? Okay. Not bad. Okay. Well, no, please justify the title then.
You will be disappointed anyway. I'll try my luck.
As usual, nothing new. Huh?
Space is terrestrial and Brahman is transcendental.
Adengappa. Anything beyond that? That seems very obvious. Now, my question is, if space also is all pervading as we define it, which is right, Brahman also is said to be all-pervading, then why can't we conclude as space to be Brahman? But there's a lacuna, there's a fallacy in that argument. You can't say, therefore, logically conclude space equals Brahman. Therefore, the question is, what is the difference between the two? Obviously, there is a limitation in space which doesn't exist with reference to Brahman. That's the point. The crux is, if you analyze, what is the limitation of space vis-a-vis the limitlessness of Brahman? There's a limitation when we say space is all pervading. What's the limitation? That's where you got to examine.
Space is in reference to the world, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But Brahman is above that, transcendental.
You're actually, if you know the answer, you're actually answering it, but you're not putting it in the way that really seals the argument. You know, it's almost sort of open-ended statement you're making. It doesn't really convince me to accept it. All right, I will leave it at that. No issue. Reddy Garu, any idea?
Pranam Guruji, I'm still on the basis of understanding this.
Understanding what, sir?
I could able to understand the equation with the space and both being all pervasive Brahman, but when it is equal, but why not be? But subtle difference which we are have between the space and Brahman, no, I'm not able to comprehend.
Okay, fair enough. No problem. No problem, sir. Amitama.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om.
Again, this is just a guess, sir. The limitation in space versus the limitlessness in Brahman. The difference I see is in Brahman, there is an intelligence that is the reason why everything exists. So Brahman is the architect. Space, on the other hand, is there's an absence of that intelligence. Sorry, sir.
I see the intelligence was a little less in the answer. What I meant is, you get that. No.
No problem, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
I can take the liberty with you, Uma.
Sure.
Right. Setuji will not be given the permission. Any number of times you raise the hand. Yes, Setuji. Wow. Again, I keep taking so much liberty with Setuji also. One day, all of you will take a wholesale account with me. Yes, sir. Sir, we can't hear you.
Hari Om Guruji. Yeah.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yes, sir. Yes.
This all-pervading is one quality common to both, but Brahman is much more than that. All that what you have listed in the verse is omnipresent, and that doesn't apply to space. So.
No, I'm not taking rest of the descriptions in the mantra. Let's say, if we put aside the rest of the descriptions in the mantra, just comparing space and Brahman, what's the difference?
See, when we from duality, oneness, when one reflects, one can reflect in, one can merge with Brahman. Atman and Brahman merges, which doesn't happen in space.
So it will help in answering the question by trying to be, if you can focus on the point, there's a limitation to space, but Brahman is limitless. If you explain what is a limitation of space, even though we say space is all pervading, there's a limitation. Now, if you explain what is a limitation of space, then you know where Brahman scores over space.
Limitation is the space is outside you.
No, Ji. I'll have to still explore the answer. Rajima?
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari
Guruji,
Om.
again a guess. Space is gross and has its limitations, like you said.
I didn't say that. I didn't say space is
There is
gross.
limitation.
You're conveniently
limitation
putting
of-
words into my mouth. I didn't say space is gross.
No. Limitation
Ah.
of space, Guruji.
I'm saying no to that. I didn't say that space is gross. Please. So space is gross, Brahman is subtle.
That's what I was wanting
See,
to
again,
complete.
we are giving, okay, sorry. Is that what you actually wanted to say? That space is subtle? Sorry, Brahman is subtle and space is
Yes.
gross. Is that what you were trying to say? But again, gross is again another term for limitation. Subtle is another term for limitless. It doesn't really still help me understand the concept, isn't it? You're still expanding the question, I would say. Okay, let me.
Can we say Brahman is the cause for space?
You can say Brahman is, no, even that is not right to say so. Brahman is not the cause of space. See, it could have been just very easy for me to explain and move ahead. But the fact that I've paused and examined a statement, we know how much we are not aware of the little intricacies. The examination was not to exhibit how much we do not know, but the technicality behind it. It's important we know that. Okay. Anybody else? Lakshmima, you want to try?
I'm just guessing. It's Brahman is beyond space. Brahman even pervades space. There's a duality in you and space, but when it's Brahman, there is oneness. Space, there's still an otherness. I don't know how to explain that, but it's beyond space. It's the substratum, even for space, Brahman is the substratum. For space to exist, Brahman has to be there.
I almost thought you got it. I almost thought you nailed it.
Almost. And I lost it, is it?
Just there and
The
thereabouts.
duality is...
Don't get into the duality element. Yeah. No. Okay. Think along. Okay.
So,
Tikima.
yeah.
Hari Om Guruji, I don't know, can we say because space is an element, it's a subtle element like space, air, sound and all, or that's not the reason? That's the only thing I could think of.
Right. Fair enough. No, I can think along with you all. Ramji, any idea?
Hari Om Guruji. I can only think of the difference being time. Time is the difference between space and Brahman. I thought Brahman is eternal, and in that sense, it is eternal, while space may not be.
Sir, the space existed yesterday for you?
For us, yes, but may not be for Brahman. That is the way I was thinking that.
When you say space existed, it existed from the time the world has begun, isn't it? The world existed.
Right, but if you assume that Brahman goes beyond the world,
then
for him, space is also one of his creations. In the sense that there is a start and end to that space, whereas he doesn't have a start and end.
You're putting in your own way. In fact, you've got it. And this is the point I wanted to get to. Now, if you carefully examine, Ramji, I'll help you, help us expand, understand this. Now, when we talk of pervasiveness, we are talking about where all does the space exist, isn't it? Now, let's start with, what are the experiences you go through in your life? You go through the 3 states of consciousness, which is the waking, the dream, the deep sleep, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, does the space exist in the waking state?
Yes.
Does the space exist in the dream state?
Yes.
Does it exist in deep sleep state?
Maybe, I'm not too sure. Yeah.
It does exist.
Okay. Yeah.
Does the space exist in the 4th state, the Turiya state?
No.
Right. The space does not exist in the 4th state. That's the limitation. Now, does Brahman exist in the waking state?
Yeah.
In the dream?
Yes.
In the deep sleep?
Yes.
Does it exist in the state beyond the 3 in the 4th state?
Yes.
Yes. Therefore, Brahman is superior or subtler than space. Space exists only in the 3 states. And that's what Lakshmi Ma was saying, only with reference to the terrestrial. Even Ushama was saying, it exists terrestrial, not even terrestrial, with reference to the waking, dream, deep sleep. But Brahman exists in the 4th state where space doesn't exist. Therefore, space is limited to the waking, dream, deep sleep. Brahman is beyond the waking. It exists in the 3. It also exists beyond this. Therefore, the ultimate pervasiveness when we talk paryagataha, or in the verse, in the context, is paryaga. Both are the same. Means all pervasive. So this is how you examine it logically, whether it pervades. So the limitation to space is space doesn't exist in the 4th state. That's all you must understand. That's the point which answers the question. The limitation of space doesn't exist in the state of Turiya. Turiya is known as the state of self-realization. Its Turiya means the 4th. It's called the 4th because we go through waking, dream, and deep sleep. 1, 2, 3. Since we go through 1, 2, 3 states, they said the 4th. That's all. In a continuation to our experiences, they called it the 4th. That's all. Otherwise, they could have called it the 7th or the 10th or the 11th. It doesn't matter. It's just a number. But why they call it the 4th? Because they're going with the continuation of our experiences. The waking, dream, deep sleep. 1, 2, 3. The 4th state is also known as the state of realization. Space doesn't exist there. That's the limitation of space. This is the answer. Okay, Ramji? Right. Haresh, are you okay with the answer? Following? Okay, right. Now, resplendent. Shukrama. Saparyaga Shukrama. Shukrama means resplendent, means a spiritual person. What is the opposite of resplendent? You see, resplendent means who is bright. Who is vibrant. There's certain energy associated with it, isn't it? So opposite of resplendent means you are gloomy, dull, morose. So he says a spiritual man becomes resplendent. He becomes the illuminator, almost. In fact, the self becomes the illuminating principle. Since you become the principle, you become the self, you become resplendent. Again, this all qualifications of what that self-realized person would be like. A realized soul would be full of energy, brilliant, not gloomy as we understand. And then he says, without body. So that the terms akayam, avranam, asnaviram, which is bodiless, scatheless, sinewless. All these refers to the physical body. So without body, scatheless, without sinews, says that he is not confined to the physical body, which means whatever happens to the physical body does not affect him. He has completely transcended the limitations of the body, whereas you and I are limited and affected by the experiences what the physical body goes through, isn't it? Without body doesn't mean he becomes in thin vapor. No, it only means he has transcended the bodily changes, whatever health, ill health, age, all of that has no effect to him because he is not the body. So when I say I am not the body, whatever happens to the body should not and would not affect me. But if I may say it physically, if I say mere lip service is not the point. Do I really have I really disconnected myself from the body? A self-realized soul has completely disconnected. So to the extent you are disconnected with the body, to that extent you are connected with the self. So this man, he's not confined to the body. And then without sin, untainted by sin, apapavidham. He's untainted by sin. Sin refers to mental agitations, refers to subtle body. Shuddham, pure, refers to the causal body. Means no vasanas. So whenever they use the word pure, means no vasanas. So a self-realized person has gone beyond the vasanas. He doesn't commit any sin. So even relative sense, who is it who's above the law? Whatever they do, they're not punished by the law. They're above the law, one notch above the law. UK, even in our worldly experiences, I'm asking UK because suddenly she's glowing. You know? The wisdom. By that, the wisdom is glowing through the divine ray. You know?
Because of the sun's rays, yes.
That's what I said. No, I see some ray beyond that also, not just because I'll be very, very bad if I say only because of the sun. No, not only because of the sun.
At present, that is the reason, Guruji.
Yes, okay. I'll take that also. Yes, Ma.
Means what we see is one is who has not committed any sins at all, Guruji. Secondly, which is very, very not practical. And the other is one who has a lot of influence and that kind of thing.
No, I'm saying even in worldly law, who is it who's above the law? Law can't punish them, even in a worldly sense.
One who has not committed sins, Guruji.
And then you're not any layman also. But in the terms of worldly sense, I'm saying, royalty. Royalty are not punished by the law. They cannot.
Yes.
And also the president. Because he's above the law, above the Supreme Court. If Supreme Court may give a capital punishment, the last resort they go is to the president. So the president is above the highest law in that country, isn't it? So in a worldly sense, whatever a royalty does is accepted. Tomorrow, if a royalty goes onto the road and breaks a signal,
it is
you can't be
considered
penalized you can't be penalized for breaking the signal. Cannot. It is accepted. So in that sense, they say, absolute sense, one who has attained realization is without sin, untainted by sin. Now, are you able to draw the connection between sin and subtle body?
Yes.
What's the connection? Please enlighten us.
See, a subtle body cannot, cannot do any, it's not tainted by the sin at all, Guruji. It is not capable of any sin.
No, the interpretation to sin, we are calling it as subtle body. Purity, we are calling as causal body. Scatheless and sinuless, we are calling it the gross body. Now, how do you understand the rationale to say without sin means subtle body? How do you understand that? What's your understanding? How do you interpret that?
There's no life or there's no body. There's no...
Don't talk of Atman, I'm not talking of Atman here. I'm talking of the concept. When we say sin, we are saying it is subtle body. How do you explain that?
Because there's no reason to commit any sin, Guruji. There's no...
Again, you're going back to the Atman.
I'm
not talking of Atman. Just the concept. When you say sin, we are interpreting it as subtle body. How do you interpret subtle body, sin?
I'm not able to get, Guruji.
We'll get help from your other sister. Yes.
I'm thinking.
Thinking. Solungo. Very easy, ma, for you.
A sin is in the conscience.
Oui.
I don't know.
The question is, how are we connecting sin to subtle body? Okay. Let's ask Vasanta Ma.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om Ma.
It is, I don't know, I think it is to do with the state of your mind, connected with your mental and the feeling of guilt, which is subtle.
Absolutely right. Explain further. Can you expand further?
This sin is something which is to do with your guilt, how guilty you feel. Have you listened to your conscience? If your conscience says it is not correct, then it is a guilt.
No, yes, you're right. So as you rightly say, sin is in the realm of the mind, Sin is nothing but mental agitation, isn't it? That's the definition of sin. Sin is not the action, it is the reaction after a performance of an action. So when we say sin is a mental agitation, it is at the realm of the mind and the intellect.
That is,
therefore, we categorize it under the subtle body.
physical is gross.
Subtle is the mind and intellect. So sin is related to the mind and intellect, therefore it is subtle body. This is the connection. Perfect, Vasantama. UK, you are able to understand now?
Yes, yes. Yes.
This is the interpretation. Otherwise, we may not understand how do we interpret sin as subtle body. And how do you interpret purity as causal body? Any idea, UK?
I'm not able to express it.
All right, no problem. Gayatri Ma, how do you interpret?
Purity is there is no absolute taint or anything attached to it. So when a person has got no vasanas and is gone beyond this mind, intellect at the causal level, it is referred to as causal body.
Shuddham. Shuddham means what?
Pure.
What is the opposite of purity?
Tainted or impure.
Dirt, is it?
Dirt.
What is the other meaning for vasana?
Mala, dirt.
Mala. Mala. Whenever we say mala, the Sanskrit word for mala is dirt. Dirt means vasanas. Now, this is the language of the Upanishads. We have to understand their terms. Then we can easily relate. This is what it means that. Then there is no confusion in the head, isn't it? Mala is dirt, which means vasanas. So Shuddham is no mala, which is no vasanas, therefore causal body. It then becomes a formula. It becomes very easy to interpret it. Wherever it comes, you can easily say this is what it means. Isn't it, man?
Yes.
Perfect. So a realized soul has gone beyond the gross body, subtle body, and causal body. Simple thing, they put it in their own language. Straightforward, what we could say so. And then he says, a realized soul becomes a kavihi, a seer. A seer can be interpreted as one who knows everything. He becomes the knowing principle. So as you advance, you become very efficient and knowledgeable in all walks of life. Kavihi, a seer. Manishihi, omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. Transcendent. Paribhuhu. It transcends the limitations of the body, mind, and intellect. Not sometimes. What's happening with us is we are all the time limited with our own. Padminima, can you think like Sashikanji? Can Sashikanji think like Reddy Garu? Can Reddy Garu think like Rajima? Can Rajima think like Haresh? Can Haresh think like Ramji? Even the names we have taken, it's impossible for you to think like them, isn't it? Padminima, now I ask you, why can't you think and perceive and feel like others?
Because I'm different from others, my thoughts are different, my emotions are different, my vasanas are different. So that makes an individual different from another one.
Correct. It is your vasanas that is different from them. So your vasanas are expressing through a particular channel of perception, emotion, thought, isn't it? So to that extent, your perceptions are limited. To that extent, your emotions are limited. To that extent, your thoughts are limited. Isn't it? But when you say transcendent, means when do you transcend the perception, emotion, thought?
When I see oneness in everything, when I see myself in everything.
Even from a
In
relative
others
point of
also,
view.
duality.
Even from a relative point of view. When can you transcend your thought and identify with another's thought? Let's say they do different thought processes. A says one thing,
there is harmony.
B says completely other.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking of harmony here. We're talking about transcending the limitation of your thought. I'm trying to explain the concept transcendent. The word transcendent means, he says paribhuhu. Paribhuhu means transcendent. He is transcended, means he has gone beyond the body, mind, and intellect, perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. We are all slaves of our perceptions, emotions, and thoughts, isn't it? Now, I'm giving an example. A has a particular thought. B has a thought which is exactly contrary, opposing to A. Exactly the opposite. Differing to what the A thinks. Now, if A has to transcend beyond the limitation of A's thinking and accommodate B, how is it possible?
I have to see myself in the other person, putting myself in their shoes. Transcending thoughts means, in the practical sense.
No, can we, Mark, when we get into a practical situation, what is it that makes it difficult to relate with others? We're not able to get over our perspective, isn't it?
Yes.
Any number of times we keep thinking the way we think, isn't it? It's like a beaten path. We keep coming back to it again and again. So why is it? Because of our attachment and conditioning to our perceptions, emotions, and thoughts, isn't it? So what is being conveyed here is he is totally detached. He is completely transcended the limitations of the body, mind, and intellect. Whereas vis-a-vis, when we act, we are confined and limited and bound by our perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. Our vision becomes very narrow. We only tend to see in a particular way, and which we think is right. That's the only right thing. It's interesting. Other day, Rajima and me went for picking up some tiles. Rajima, you remember the conversation? A brief conversation, not philosophical conversation, but and there were 10, 20 tiles that were spread out, and we had to choose which is the right thing. And then I said, I think this is nice. And she also said, yes, Guruji, that's nice. But then we were saying we asked the person, can you give us something which is the most economical, one thing which is the least, we don't want to spend anything amount on that particular area. We just want them. And he comes with a particular tile. And from his perspective, that's not bad at all. What, Rajima? From his perspective, he felt that is nice. But from our perspective, I said, man, no way in my dream I would not put the tile there. It was a tile with picture of all pebbles, pebbles and stones. I can't put that on a wall, man. It's something out of place. I don't think that's the right thing. He is justifiable for his perception. I'm justifiable for my perception. Whose perception is right? Even a donkey perceives the world. The donkey perceives the world from a donkey's perspective. A bull perceives the world from a bull's perspective. A giraffe's perception has a giraffe's perspective of the same world. An ant perceives the world from an ant's perspective. Whose perception is to be taken as standard? Who is a standard? This concept is explained in the concept of theory of perception. In Vedantic studies, there's a chapter, a concept called theory of perception. Someday we'll get into that. There is the qualities of the subject, the qualities of the object, and the union between the thought of the object and the quality of the object. Two things. There is the thought of the object and the quality of the object that brings about a perception of the object. So your perception of the world is defined by the thoughts in you, and the qualities of the object is a perception. Now the question is, whose perception is standard? All what we're saying in the concept is we're all conditioned and limited by our perceptions. I don't know how do we transcend it, but this man has transcended it. He reached that state where he says, I'm not this. And the last description he says is self-existent. Swayambhuhu. Paribhuhu is transcendent. Swayambhuhu is self-existent. Self-existent, Harish, self-existent literally means an uncaused cause. I want you to write that down. Then you will have no explanation if you haven't written that down. He says the self is an uncaused cause, self-existent. What do you understand by uncaused cause?
Guruji, what I understand is that the cause is not the cause. It's independent of the cause.
It means it doesn't have a cause, isn't it? It's independent of the cause. It doesn't have a cause. Now, everything in your life has to have a cause, isn't it? Including you yourself. If you're existing, there's a cause. Your parents are the cause, you're the effect. You are the cause, your children are the effect. Now they become the cause, their children are the effect. So there is a cause and effect. There's like a seed and a tree, like an egg and a chicken. There is a cause-effect relationship for everything, isn't it?
Yes.
If there's a snake, where did the snake come from? From the egg, isn't it? The egg is the cause, the snake is the effect. So there's a cause-effect relationship. Egg, snake, snake, egg, egg, snake, snake, egg. This goes on. Now, I ask you, what's the cause of the rope?
It is the truth.
The rope is the truth. Okay, now, okay, Padmanima, you're still unmuted. Good. You're so silent, as good as unmuted, you know.
I was not aware of it. I just
Even we were not aware of it. So your silence is profound. Now in this, now, okay, let's come back to the same example, Harish. The snake that has come out of the rope, okay, let's put it that way. The snake that has come out of just disregard what I've said. The snake that has come out of the egg vis-a-vis the snake that has come out of the rope. What's the difference?
The difference is, Guruji, the snake and the egg as a cause and effect versus the snake and the rope is our perception.
So you say that there is a history to the snake and the egg.
Yes.
There is no history to the snake from the rope.
Correct.
So the snake, it is your perception.
Yeah.
So the snake arising out of the rope is an uncaused cause, isn't it? There is no cause for the snake which came out of the rope. You can't say rope is the cause.
Correct. Yes, it's an uncaused cause. Correct.
Everything in the world has a cause, but Brahman has no cause. It's an uncaused cause, self-existent. It exists without a cause. Just like I have no example to give you. That's why I'm taking the example of the rope and the snake. So the snake which has come out of the rope is an uncaused cause. You can't say rope is the cause for the snake. No. It exists in your own imagination. It's self-existent. Obviously, it could have been, it's the ignorance of the rope, no doubt. In the absolute sense, the self is self-existent. It doesn't need anything else for it to exist. It's an uncaused cause. And lastly, he says, are you okay, Harish, with that?
Yes, Guruji. Yes.
The best way to differentiate between a caused cause and an uncaused cause is a snake from an egg and a snake from a rope. That seals it.
Yes, Guruji.
Once where you see a snake has a cause, either you see a snake, there's no cause, uncaused cause. And lastly, he says, he has allotted the respective duties for eternal years. Allotted duties for eternal years. Now, what it means is that Brahman, which is a substratum of everything, it is expressing itself eternally. Respective duties. So the best way to understand this is, it is the essence of everything, the substratum of everything. It is expressing eternally as essence of everything. It's like the quintessence of everything. It's like the ferocity in a tiger. It is a luminosity in the sun. It is the coolness of the moon. It is a sweetness in the sugar. It is the dharma of everything, in short. Eternally, it is expressing through the dharma, which is the essence in everything that's manifesting. Reddy Garu, I know you're a little lost. When he says he has allotted respective duties for eternal years, means it is a substratum or essence or dharma in everything that's manifesting.
Yes, Guruji, understood that.
You understood that, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes, I got it.
So it is the truth in everything that's manifesting. Like the brilliance in the sun, the coolness in the moon, the ferocity in the tiger. In a relative sense, it is your own swadharma. Whatever your dharma, what is your truth? Your nature. Relative sense is a swadharma. It is true to it. So it is the substratum of everything. Now, if at all we find any difficulty to attune to this verse, is because he's talking from an absolute sense. So you may at times you'll get lost because you can't relate to it. Therefore, it's always we are attempting to give a relative example right throughout.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yes, yes, Guruji. Understood.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So just to reattune, can I request you to chant the verse for us, Reddy Garu?
No, Guruji, not at all.
Come on.
I need to really by heart today. Then you have to. I can do it next class.
Okay, next class you are given. You should do that, sir. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll do that, Guruji.
So for now, I shall conclude. We'll chant this mantra again, please. Okay. Yes. Just to get into the spirit of all what these each words we decoded, what it means if you chant it together. Okay. Right. Saparyaga shukrama kayama vranamasna virago shuddhamapa apavidham kavirmanishi paribhu swayambhu ya arthartatyatorthan vyadadhat shashvati bhyasamaabhyah. Ready, Garu? So make sure you get this verse by heart. If you want, Shivaji is there to help you. Shivaji was raising his hand. And Shivaji, no need to salute, sir. Just right. One of the tongue twisters. Is a long. Amazing. Right. Okay. We'll come back. Yes, but I think you all have the chanting with you all, recorded chanting, which had been sent a while ago. Maybe for the benefit, Rajima, if it could be sent again, so it would help you. Maybe you can just let it recite along with the chant, with the text, so it will help you to get hold of the meter. Because Upanishad text, every mantra is a different meter, unlike the Gita. It's a different meter, a different intonation, it's a different pun on each word, a different pause, a punctuation that gives the great lift to the mantra. You know, it's not that difficult, but it's something very beautiful. Intonation, even the mere chant itself is very reverberating, very, very elevating. Please attempt to get hold of it. Okay. Someday, once we have the facility up and running soon, we'll have this chanting classes. So, you know, those who want to learn, we can always make that an opportunity to attune to that, you know, the chant itself. It'll be a very interesting exercise, right? Okay, we'll conclude, we'll come back. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.